Greetings, everyone. This is Rock and Roll Spot coming at you with another installment of the Transmetropolitan Retro Comic Review, Rundown, Breakdown, whatever. So, first off, I just want to say sorry, everyone, for the lack of content last week. Early last week, I had a bit of a family emergency. It resolved itself quickly. Everything's fine. Nothing to worry about. But I was I was not in the right headspace to make videos, and so I just decided that last week's video would be pushed forward to this week. So we're actually going to get you'll get quite a glut of content from me this week. Anywho, that out of the way. Transmetropolitan, Volume 6. Gouge Away. Where we left off at the end of Volume 5, the newly elected president, the Smiler, had basically censored a column of spiders that would have painted a recent event in a very unflattering light for the city police department. In part because what Spider was reporting on was supposed to get him killed. And so he told the assistants that from here on out they are always to be armed. And so, we begin. Gouge Away. The first portion, basically focuses on Spider totally not on drugs, watching television. Only to discover that, one, there is now a Spider Jerusalem cartoon. Which, of course, is absolutely hilarious. Then we learn that Yelena may have accidentally sold the rights to his life story to AMC TV Movies. Which brings us to From the Mountain to the City, the life and work of Spider Jerusalem. And a heavily a reenactment of the opening of the first arc's riot scene where Spider was telling the story of the riot from the roof of a strip club. And let's just say a lot of license has been taken. Spider has a goatee, is thoroughly ripped. Got shot, but a steel hypodermic syringe case that his best friend, Mitch Royce, gave him as a thank you for taking on the column to save his career. Stop the bullet. Laissez-Falls Terrible makes a brief appearance. Yeah, it's terrible. Terrible in the best ways. And so after watching that, Spider briefly just contemplates firing his bowel disruptor into his mouth, only to discover that now there's also a porn version of Spider. I hump it here. We get porn versions of Shannon, Yelena, Spider himself. Yeah, it's as bad as one would expect. It's it's your average parody of porn parodies. And so Spider then goes into the bathroom and takes a whole bunch of drugs. Which brings us to probably one of the few times where I find Frank Quitely's artwork pleasant. Oh, what is it? The heroic... He has himself a drug-addled heroic revenge fantasy, which ends with him using the Smiler as a suppository. And then he has a drug-addled nightmare drawn by Eduardo Riso of 100 Bullets. Spider does have a bit of a nightmare. And the issue ends with the cat peeing on Spider's head. Next up we have The Walk. It's generally done as a column. Spider-Boy. This is how it's become. They all know me. Familiarity breeding amiable contempt. Celebrity hack. Merchandise line. Column that everyone pretends to read. Appraise the inevitable backlash. Column that's been made meaningless by the quiet censorship apparatus turned on it. Already had one number spiked. Do they know? I mean, it's bad enough the media have made me a defanged, tamed thing that they can pet on television and on top of store shelves. But do they know that there's someone in the White House with a D-Notice stamp just waiting for you to step out of line again? Here I am, Spider Jerusalem, media element, TV celebrity, quotable, that wild and crazy guy who does that controversial muckraking column that no one really reads, lost in the mix. Another face in the crowd. I really have to do something about this. I've faced problems like this before. If I could get out of Prague after the terrible night on the telephone with Royce delirious and tripping from the venereal ergo infection in a car full of transsexual temple whores from a Mongolian church of howling genitals, then I can get out of this. God, what a frightening afternoon that was. A nightmare of fluorescent breasts and sentient ejaculate that wiggled all over the upholstery and sang old show tunes. Do what I always do. Get the city under my feet. Become alive again. I only ever experienced the city properly on the street. It only speaks to me here. The TV is too managed. The feed site's too much like a stage. The goddamn gated community too much like living in paranoid middle-class bubble where everyone has fever dreams of the dirty, nasty city people bursting the wall and by sheer pressure of numbers crowded up against it. Just let it talk, in all its languages. Migratory patterns of cars, the scratch base of brand names from the comet's tail of perfumes, trailing the office girls headed out for lunch, snap and crackle and teenage distortive music's clashing like gangs in the high apartment block windows. One of the little pauses in the conversation of the city. Then, a sudden unexpected quiet as everyone stops to take a breath. And I get one of those little heart leaps as a girl moves my way. I fall in love for 10 seconds the way you do when you see one of those faces, those eyes. Held breath for a moment of eye contact that burns into memory. Face I could look at for the rest of my life, and then she's walked by. The city resumes, fade up chatter and music. Reverb storm guitars. Brazilian girls kissing on the corner with their flushed electric skins receiving passing new soap operas from low-orbit pirate TV sat. These are the ways my green city moves, and I learned to read her every strange dance step. And I don't like it. There's dissonance, hurried moves, panicky missteps. The tone of the city is changing, like we've all wandered into the wrong film. We're dressed for our kitchen sink slice of light drama, but the lighting's too harsh, the set's too angular and paranoid. Slap it on us all, take all our power away, don't let us talk, deport our nasty ideas about fairness and truth. No, I'm not sitting still for this. I've been wrong-footed by these bastards for too long. Time to start moving forward. March on a road of bones. Behind him there's a terrible grinding noise. Machines overshouting the various music and voices emanating from the Fairmead apartment block. I remember it from a few years back. It was taken over by squatters when the Civic Center first moved all the inhabitants so the place could be renovated. Then reallocated the renovation money. Police tanks were supposed to be saved from massive riot control or civil war. We're not supposed to see them just trundling down the fucking street. Which, yes, 2 police tanks are heading down the street towards. Oh hell, they're going to try and drive the squatters out. Hold everything. Aren't they supposed to give some kind of official request or warning before they start ramming frontage? And yes, as the first of the tanks rams into the building, CPD does explained that they've been given official notifications, civic censure, and written warnings, and they've decided to just cut to the chase. They're not going to do this. Surely it's abandoned housing or the streets for the majority of these poor fuckers, but there's a whole area of the law that's seen to condone squatting in circumstances like these, and a whole area that doesn't. Which side you enforce depends on how much of a prick you feel like being today. Not even a fight. These people spend a lot of time on the street, watching, listening, taking the city in. They know things are changing. Time was there'd be press here, bystanders, witnesses. There'd be uncertainty in the police ranks. Only the obvious psychopaths are actually eager to rush and bludgeon innocent people who were just looking for someplace dry to live. The rules have changed. There they go, off to life on the streets, with its attendant beatings and horrors and probable ending of being slashed to death with a blunt butter knife, then stripped from their clothes, or life in some ill-managed charity refuge where they'll like anally raped nightly by large mentally ill men called George. And why not? It'll get denoticed, but I'll keep it on in the shades picture memory anyway. You never know when you'll have a use for these things. Time to stop acting like a coddled diarist or a cowed reporter. That's right. Take a good long look, you fuckers. You all know it's going to be a matter of time before old Spider finds a way to give you shit. Just a matter of time. I've got all day in a fucking penthouse to think up ways to make your lives miserable. Strong Brazilian coffee, a plate of Singaporean dolphin curry, frozen German potato schnapps, food to watch the world go by. Okay, it may not sound like much to you, but I bet you weren't raised on dock lizard stew, lizard burgers, lizard curry, sweet and sour lizard, and lizard candy, were you? At the diner, there's a mention made of a feat site called the Hole. Which piques Spider's attention, as Channon, continuing to call him, the Hole. Channon subscribed to that. We talked about it a couple of years ago. Explaining, we have a flashback to Channon explaining that it's a cheap feed site out of Lou Bend, over on the west side. The News Digest and archives, with most of the main news feeds bias is boiled out. Channon's dad bought her a 3-year account, but she doesn't use it much. It's kind of boring, just basic text, and she likes AM feed better. So, this gets Spider curious. And he has an idea. He's going to change everything. And he contacts the Hole and sends them his delisted column. But he says, what I'm going to do now changes everything. Just like that. No going back. Get the city under my feet. Become alive again. Alive and angry and directed. I'm not pretending that everything the Smiler's doing is all about me. That'd be insane. I'm not that far gone yet. Dante Street was just killing a few birds with one stone. Perhaps not even a shot at me. But it's a clear message. He's prepared to delete the First Amendment. He's prepared to kill dissenting voices. He's prepared to do anything to get what he wants. Well, newsflash. So am I. See how good I'm being? No nasty words, not too many unchecked run-on sentences, chopped conventional language. Not the Spider the media have given them, you see. Not a cartoon monster. They have to take me more seriously because I appear to be human. But we also get a brief bit of a bunch of interviews he gives all at once, asking it, do you know this is illegal? No, but they don't want to call attention to him either. He never signed an NDA, but was made fairly plain to discussing that column and its contents would also garner a D notice. The interesting question he points out, though, is now the column's out, will they hit all of them with D notices when they run the interviews? So yes, they directly contravene the freedom of speech statutes, obviously. Then he's asked what his editor said about the D notice, and he says his editor is a good man. We kind of kill over Royce watching, sitting in his chair smoking a cigarette, just one. The interviews go on, and eventually the booze and the drugs and the tiredness lead me to start slipping. Once I convince them the young Paramedia 9 journal not to print the bit about squatting over the Smiler's chained down head and releasing out monster turds into his pinned open mouth until he dies, I go outside for a little air. I hear them before I see them, the signature low growl of a CPD squad car. They slow down as they move toward me, slide past at a crawl, looking at me, making very direct eye contact, sending a message. This is all they know. They've beaten me up and probably tried to kill me, and this is what it comes down to. Giving me that I know where you live look on a street in the early evening. They assume, like most people, that fear will do the trick. Fear will keep everyone in place. Fear will keep everyone distracted from what's really going on. Fear will keep the local systems in line. Fear of this battle station. Okay, I added that, but let him know we can beat him up. Let him know we could have killed him. Let him know we can destroy him. Let the fear shrivel him up. Fuck that. I'm not afraid of them. They're afraid of me. They're afraid of the truth. And then he ends the column with a quote from H.L. Mencken. The most dangerous man to any government is the man who is able to think things out for himself, without regard to the prevailing superstitions and taboos. Almost inevitably, he comes to the conclusion that the government he lives under is dishonest, insane, and intolerable. And so, if he is romantic, he tries to change it. And even if he is not romantic personally, he is very apt to spread discontent among those who are. That's where the issue ends. Next part of the arc, picking up with the assistants. Spider's unconscious, so Yelena and Shannon decide they're going to go out, have a good time. Booze, food, shopping. They have his credit cards after all. They buy some clothes. And then they also take Spider's advice and go gun shopping. Shannon makes it clear to the guy running the shop that she's not just looking for something small and dainty. No. She wants something that's going to actually do some damage. And Yelena also found something fun. Shannon has offered the Mars Special Issue Nerve Breaker. So she gives it a shot. Does the trick. She explains also the first time. She explains her history when it comes to guns. First gun she ever had was a push pistol like that one. First time she ever used it was to blow the left testicle off a guy trying to rape her best friend. She was aiming for his head. She was 12. And it horrifies her that he cheated now, but at the time, nobody blinked an eyelid about it. Not even her. Yelena explains that she went to private school. They were searched for firearms every day. Shannon retorts explaining that, they were too, to make sure that they actually had them. The first shot that Yelena fires off with the nerve breaker doesn't do too much, but she gives it a few more times, and yeah, she can do it. She knows what she's doing with it. They leave the gun store and they're about to go get some food. However, Shannon notices someone's keeping an eye on them. Yelena blasts a car that's pulled up. Shannon holds one of her guns to the head of the woman in charge of the group that's come upon them. Wanted to know why they're being followed. She finally asks if the woman's scared, and she is. Shannon then tells her that she's not scared, and that the other woman should remember that. All those little intimidation games she wants to run, not going to work on Shannon. And so, Shannon and Yelena first go to for a couple of drinks, then sit in the park, talking. And Yelena admits something that Yelena gives her own opinions on things, like, she hates her job. But Spider and what he's doing are right. But the job itself makes her feel alive. They leave the park, opting to go for drinks. Spider walks by, picking up a dead bird off the ground and eating it, and stating that they love his ass. Now we come to the title story of the trade, Gouge Away. Spider's doing research, primarily looking into Alan Schacht. He then picks up. He then has a carton of G-Sanitize, which removes all trace of one's presence from sight. 10 square meters per ampule. ID trash can, 2 strips. Renders organic material impossible to identify visually or forensically. The guy who's selling these supplies is quite the fan, and could basically easily be described as the new scum. And says the Spider's their man, even after he was turned into a cartoon. So he gets ready to go out as the assistants get up. And they ask where he's going, and he says he's following a story alone. He tells them that if he needs them, he'll call. And he picks up the phone tray. Otherwise, full security measures. So first, he goes to visit Kristen's. Kristen being the former political consultant that he turned drug dealer that he talked to earlier in the series. He's a little forceful in getting to her. Tosses one of her guys out a window. Lands on a dog. So he then talks to Kristen. He has some interesting point. He's put a few things together. Namely, Kristen never gave her political contacts. And apparently she bet on the odds of an assassination among the political staff of either candidate during the election. Had a big payout. Meaning that she bet on the death of Vita Severn. Likely because she already knew that it was going to happen. And so, he wants to know who told her. She offers him drugs on the house, anything he wants. No. He just wants to know. He wants his question answered. And she's scared. This isn't like him. And Spider simply tells her she's never met him before. And anyway, Spider then goes to a church. Interrupts the priest talking to a young child and gives her some money, tells her to grab a cab home with the Safe Ride logo. Turns out the priest of this church is in favor of certain laws being a bit more lax. Seeing as how he did Spider did just have to usher out a very young girl, illegally young. You get the picture. Turns out the priest used to run the local Right Love cell. Of course, the priest takes an objection to it being called a cell, explaining that it was an organized lobbying entity, and in this particular case, discussion group. The church in question is also the church that Alan Schacht, from the Smilers campaign, attended. Spider explains that he wants to know he wants the members of the discussion group minutes of the meeting. And as they're more traditional types, they're on paper. After that, Spider goes to talk to Fred Christ. Fred at least comes out to ask what Spider wants, and Spider explains that him and Fred need to talk. And it gives them an option. It gives them some options. They can sit like adults, or Fred can gasp out what Spider needs to know in between apocalyptic episodes of diarrheal attack. Either way, Spider gets what he wants. He explains what he wants is to know all connections and conversations and dealings between Fred Christ and the Callahan team. Spider then tells everyone present that they don't need to see what happens between him and Fred. In fact, they don't need to be here at all. He tells them to leave, contact Shannon via Mitch Royce at the word. Apartments will be set up. One of the feed sites catches Spider afterwards, walking through smoking, and promptly gets hit in the face by Spider for being in his way. Next up, at the Farside community, Spider has a few discussions about things. Apparently, one of the things from the Farside community, Farside reservation, has caught Spider's attention. Something he could really use. Telefactoring system. It's a system-to-system station. And it's beyond the test stage. And so he asked the station if there's a station in California for it. But she explains how it works. They Spider will be speed cloned in a tank in California, instituted a thought speed two-way link between real Spider and the clone. The brain is empty. You provide the mind. Spider provides the mind from back in Farside. If he moves a hand at that exact same moment in time, so it moves. Basically, he thinks in the city in California, clone Spider does what he thinks to a degree, obviously. Like if real Spider does this, clone Spider does this. It's explained to Spider that it's essentially him, but it's not. It's a telefactor. It's then explained to him that What they want to use them for is exploration. They shove a vat and a televac station into a spacecraft, land on the planet Zog, and take a walk around from here. However, she has no idea. Silky, the person he's talking to, has no idea what Spider might want with, a telefactor. He explains that if he seems to leave the city, it will attract attention. Attention he can do without. If he seems to leave the city and fly to California, alarm bells will go off in places he'd rather stay quiet. Using the telefactor station, he can get in and out of California that day without anyone being the wiser. And so, finally, the question is asked, why California? He then answers, because that's where the First Lady and her children live. We get another column. 8 o'clock and the sun's gone down. I'm about my filthy business in the dark, which is the way I like it. Royce has been on the phone to filthy assistants who have not given out the number on the phone I currently have grown into my head. They're stalling him. I've got until midnight to get the latest column in. 4 hours to fit together the last parts of the bomb I'm throwing. And these last parts are the ones that are most likely to get me killed. And with the press still asking the White House about the D-Notice situation, asking politely, mind you, and not doing any research of their own, just like the corporate news authority shills they're trained to be, there's not a better time to risk it. And so Spider goes to a bar. Basically pays off all the patrons as well as the bartender to turn a blind eye to him. And he beats one of the Dante Street one of the former prisoners who was released from at Dante Street right before the riots. Explaining that he probably shouldn't drink the same bar every night. Spider also explains he's here for an interview because Spider would like to know what the Dante Street precinct house cop said to him and his cohorts before they let them out the front door, and he wants to know exactly what he saw. He'd also be interested to learn why a murderer like this guy is out on the street. After the interview, Spider then goes to the Hotel Avalon. And using his own interrogation techniques, questions an old associate of his. Spider says to call him to Royce. Yeah, Royce is a little shocked. And Royce tells him that they can't run the call. There's no way they can run the call. They'll get another D-Notice. However, Spider points out it's 2 minutes to 12. He doesn't have time to get the column through approvals and get it to print. Explaining further, he has on-record sources for everything in the column. Every last name is real and recorded. He tells them to run it and let them scream. Hell with the board of directors. This will be the best-selling issue of the year. They'll be able to go out and buy new prospects by this time tomorrow. Platinum ones. Spider then adds that him and Royce, they'll have told the truth. And now we get to the finale of Gouge Away. And we learned out we find out what the column was all about. The press corps has descended on the D.C. residence of Alan Schacht, who has been outed as a pedophile by the column. We get some background on the First Lady, one of California's most gifted attorneys. Now, she lives in seclusion in California with her children, barred from her vocation by her husband's edict, yet separated from him by most of a continent and the White House. It seemed that the only person in the country who was prepared to find her and let her speak in her own voice was Spider Jerusalem. A pimp confessed to fixing up the president with prostitutes during his nomination fight in the city. Names named, but city press confessed it could be next to impossible to locate. There's also a description of the president's manhood. Small and crooked. This, of course, infuriates Callahan. Shat commits suicide and sets his apartment on fire. The assistants are fielding phone calls from him. Telling however, Spider snatches their phones and tells them each pack a bag of essentials and have everything else couriered to safe locations by noon. The president's approval has plummeted, and Royce is called before the board of directors. Who have also been spoken to by the president. And Royce does not agree with their decision, imploring them to not to be weak, to be tough enough to enjoy the notoriety, money, and power of the best writer in the country. And Spider cancels his bank account, destroys his credit cards. We see Kristen leaving her bar. And as she does so, an assassin kills her, as well as her bodyguards, including the Charlie Brown looking one. The guns self-destruct, and the killer walks away unseen. Royce calls Spider to tell him what's come of his meeting with the board. Spider's been fired. He explains it. Goes on to add that they're going to kill his company car any second. Freeze the bank account they set up for you while they decide whether or not to take reparations from it. Spider's calm and collected about all this. Then he explains to Royce that what he's done is cleaned out his bank account, stuck the company credit card to death, and he knows who got him fired, and he knows why no paper will touch him. He also explains to Royce everything is under control, and he implores Royce to take care of himself, because Royce only ever did right by him. Spider won't be seeing Royce for a while, but Royce will be seeing him. City police show up at Spider's apartment to find it empty. All that's left is a maker, which is on drugs. The Maker explains that the Maker is completely fucked up on bad mecha drugs. No one at all programmed a revenge mechanism into it. He does it all himself, or itself. Every human in the room now has a Martian venereal disease. The kind that creates big sacks of green shit with stinging maggots on your ass and chest and face. The incurable kind that you only catch off Martian hookers in the part of the city CPD were banned from visiting after that scandal. Because nobody fucks with the truth. And Spider and the assistants and the cat are out in the city. And Spider claims that he has a cunning plan. Also, he hasn't felt this good in years. And that is where things conclude. That's all for now. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. We'll be back tomorrow with the weekly comic book roundup, covering both last week's comics and this week's comics. Thursday we'll be getting to volume 7 of 100 Bullets, and Friday we got something new we're going to be trying out. Hope you guys like that. Anyway, as I said a minute or so ago, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal can be found in the description box down below. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off, saying, live long and rock hard.